Picture this, it is the winter of 1173. Inside the frozen walls of Salisbury Castle, a pale figure moves slowly behind the iron bars of an isolated tower. Her golden hair, once the crown of poets and troubadours, now hangs limp around a face hollowed by despair. The air is cold, damp, and heavy with the scent of mildew. Rats scurry across the stone floor, feeding on crumbs left from a meager meal. This is no common prisoner. This is Eleanor of Aquitaine, the most powerful woman in medieval Europe. Queen of France. Duchess of Aquitaine. Queen of England. Mother of kings. A woman who once shaped empires and charmed courts across Christendom. Now she is 51 years old. Her voice silenced, her body wasting away in darkness. And her jailer is not a foreign enemy, nor a rebellious vassal, but her own husband, King Henry II of England. For 15 long years, she will rot inside a cage of stone and iron, punished for daring to defy the king. The most powerful woman in Europe, broken by her husband's revenge. Eleanor of Aquitaine was born in 1122, heiress to the richest duchy in France. From the moment of her birth, she was marked for greatness. Her inheritance included vast lands stretching from the Pyrenees to the Atlantic. She would control wealth, armies, and influence that rivaled the French crown itself. At the age of 15, she married Louis VII of France, becoming queen consort, and instantly the most dazzling woman in Europe. Eleanor was not content to remain in the shadows, as medieval queens often were. She loved music, poetry, and philosophy. In her court at Poitiers, she gathered troubadours, scholars, and poets, who developed the concept of courtly love, a culture that reshaped European literature. But her marriage to Louis was a disaster. Louis was pious, austere, and timid. Eleanor was bold, ambitious, and passionate. When she accompanied him on the Second Crusade in 1147, she scandalized Europe. Her independence, her closeness to her uncle Raymond of Antioch, and her refusal to remain silent as a dutiful wife fueled rumors of infidelity. Chroniclers whispered that she rode at the head of her troops in armor, and that she brought chaos to the crusade. The marriage collapsed. In 1152, Eleanor's union with Louis was annulled. Officially, it was for consanguinity, being too closely related by blood. But the truth was simpler: they despised each other. Within 8 weeks, Eleanor remarried. Her new husband was Henry Plantagenet, Duke of Normandy and Count of Anjou, 11 years younger than her, but burning with ambition. Together, they would create an empire. When Henry ascended the English throne in 1154, Eleanor became Queen of England. Theirs was no ordinary marriage. Together, they controlled a realm stretching from Scotland to the Pyrenees. It was the largest empire in Western Europe. At first, they were partners. Eleanor ruled Aquitaine with an iron hand, while Henry secured England and Normandy. They had 8 children, including the future kings Richard the Lionheart and John Lackland. But this partnership was built on fragile foundations. Henry was brilliant but ruthless. He was prone to explosive rage and notorious for infidelity. Eleanor, for her part, was proud, ambitious, and unwilling to be humiliated. For years, she tolerated Henry's mistresses. But then came the final insult. Rosamund, known as Fair Rosamund, was installed at Woodstock Palace as Henry's official mistress. Unlike his secret dalliances of the past, this was public. Eleanor was expected to endure the shame silently. But Eleanor was not a woman who endured quietly. Her patience had limits. The breaking point came not only from Henry's infidelity, but from his betrayal of their children. By 1173, Henry planned to redistribute lands, favoring his youngest son, John, over Richard and Geoffrey. To Eleanor, this was not only treachery, it was the destruction of the dynasty she had fought to build. Furious, she acted. Eleanor began secretly conspiring with her sons. She used her position as Duchess of Aquitaine to gather resources and political support. She encouraged her eldest surviving son, Henry the young king, to rebel against his father. Richard and Geoffrey joined. And soon, Eleanor was in open defiance. This was no mere family quarrel. Eleanor allied with Henry's enemies, including her former husband, Louis VII of France. She had become the architect of a rebellion against her own husband, the King of England. For Henry, this was the ultimate betrayal. And when Eleanor tried to escape disguised as a knight, fleeing toward France, she was captured near Chartres. Dragged before Henry, dressed as a man, she was humiliated. To Henry, this was unforgivable. She had challenged not just his throne, but his pride, his masculinity, his authority as a king. The sentence was not death. It was worse. At first, Eleanor was held in Chinon Castle. But Henry wanted more than simple imprisonment. He wanted to break her spirit. He ordered her transferred to a series of castles in England, each more remote, more desolate, more degrading. Eventually, she was confined in the tower of Salisbury Castle. Her prison cell was small, barely 3 meters in diameter. A single barred window admitted only a sliver of light. Damp air clung to the stone. Winters froze her bones, summers suffocated her with heat. Her meals were meager: bread, vegetable stew, sometimes a scrap of meat. Bathing water was rare. Her clothes grew thin and ragged with time. But the physical suffering was only part of the punishment. Henry ordered her isolated. No books. No letters. No visits from her children. Guards were forbidden to speak to her. For days she lived in silence so absolute it pressed on her chest like a weight. The Queen of England. The Duchess of Aquitaine. The woman who once commanded armies and courted poets. Now reduced to a prisoner in a rotting cage. From queen to captive, 15 years in the dark. Time stretched endlessly. Days blurred into months, then years. Eleanor aged within the tower. Her golden hair turned white. Her back bent under the damp chill. Arthritis gnawed at her joints. Her eyesight dimmed in the half-light of her cell. Worst of all was the news she heard second-hand, in fragments from careless guards. In 1183, her son Henry the young king died of dysentery. Eleanor was given no chance to mourn him properly. No priest, no ceremony. Just silence. She also learned of Richard's campaigns, of shifting alliances, of the endless tide of politics, yet she remained cut off, unable to act. Occasionally, she managed to smuggle out letters. One to her sister read: "The days stretch like years, and the years like eternities. My body wastes away, but my soul refuses to submit to this tyrant I called husband." But even these glimpses of freedom brought punishment. When her letters were discovered, she was placed into total isolation, a darkness more terrifying than death. 15 years passed. A lifetime within a cage. In 1189, Henry II finally died. His sons had turned against him, his empire was fractured, and his body failed him. The moment Richard the Lionheart took the throne, his first act was to release his mother. He knew the truth: Eleanor's captivity had been an act of cruelty, not justice. When the doors opened, witnesses reported that Eleanor emerged pale, bent, and trembling. Her beauty was gone. Her health was ruined. But her spirit, astonishingly, remained unbroken. She returned not as a victim, but as a force of politics once again. In Richard's absence during the Third Crusade, she ruled as regent of England. She negotiated marriages, mediated conflicts, and secured alliances. For a woman who had been silenced for 15 years, her voice still carried the weight of power. But the scars, physical, emotional, and spiritual, never left her. Eleanor's imprisonment is not just a medieval story. It is the story of power used as a weapon in the most intimate of relationships. Today, psychologists would call Henry's actions systematic domestic abuse. Isolation, deprivation, control, humiliation, these are tactics still used by abusers in modern times. Eleanor's stone cage may have been a medieval tower, but its echo is found in every victim trapped by fear, silenced by authority, or broken by cruelty. Modern studies show the devastating effects of isolation on mental health: panic, hallucinations, depression. Eleanor suffered all of these long before science gave them names. Her story is not just history. It is a mirror. Eleanor of Aquitaine's fate reveals the terrifying reality of power without limits. Even the most powerful woman of her age, queen, duchess, mother of kings, could be reduced to nothing by the wrath of her husband. Henry II's cruelty turned marital jealousy into systematic torture. His revenge created one of the darkest episodes in medieval history. And yet, Eleanor endured. She survived the cage. She returned to rule. She left a legacy as one of the most remarkable women in European history. Her story echoes as both a warning and a reminder: power without compassion destroys. But resilience, even in the face of unimaginable cruelty, can outlive tyranny. Her cage has rusted. Her voice still speaks,